former congressman from Florida, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Colonel West, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning, Brian and Larry. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Colonel West, you may have noticed this. Harry Reid, Senate Majority Leader, over the weekend, he was giving an interview to a Nevada-based National Public Radio affiliate, and he's talking about how nothing's getting done in Washington. Instead of taking the blame, instead of actually acknowledging the fact that the House has passed, hundreds of bills and they're just sitting on his desk and he hasn't taken any of them up. Instead, he said, and I'm quoting now, Republicans who oppose Obama, he's hoping that they're doing so, quote, based on substance and not the fact that he's an African American, unquote. You're a Republican. You had been in the Congress. Are all those Republicans opposing Barack Obama because he's black?
Well, of course not. And Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina gave a great response to Harry Reid. But then also understand this is the same Harry Reid that said the good thing about Barack Obama was that he was light-skinned and he didn't speak using Negro dialect. So if you want to talk about something that is offensive and racist to, you should be the entire black community, his words were. But when you want to have that fallback, when you realize that the president's policies are failing, as we see with Obamacare just about every day, you have to go back to, trying to make it a racial issue. And it's just not working anymore because the American people are suffering. I mean, this economy is not recovering. We see the roles of part-time workers exploding, the roles of people on food stamps exploding. So that has nothing to do with the president's race. It has everything to do with his incompetence.
We often here on this program, we borrow stories from the folks at Fox News that we think are interesting. We tell you about them. This morning, the reverse is happening, as it often does here on this program. We break a little news, and then somebody else picks it up and runs with it. That's happening today. Fox News reporting what we talked about here yesterday during our interview with Joe DeGenova. Now, he represents whistleblowers in the Benghazi case. He says that sources are coming to him and telling him that what was going on at that embassy annex where the CIA was operating was that they were collecting surface-to-air missiles, and that one of the things that may have happened, and one of the reasons that the administration was so panicked about what happened in Benghazi, and they wanted to get a different story in line there, was because apparently Al-Qaeda may have gotten a lot of surface-to-air missiles. These are devices that can be used to take down commercial aircraft.
You're absolutely right.
This is very scary.
You're absolutely right. And the thing is, we have to understand that Ansar al-Sharia, which executed the Benghazi consulate attack, they are affiliated with Al-Qaeda. And when you look at the fact that the black, Islamist flag flies all over Benghazi, that's bad guy territory. Rand Paul had the interesting exchange, earlier this year with, former Secretary of State Clinton asking about transfer of weapons. He also posed a question to Victoria Nuland, who now has been promoted within the State Department. And this is once again why I tell people we need to have a select committee. Representative Frank Wolf of Virginia has brought up HRES 36, I believe. It has 161 signatures on it. This thing about spreading it out over 5 different committees, that's not unity of effort. That's not unity of command and leadership. We need to have that select committee that has subpoena powers and get to the bottom of it. What was Ambassador Stevens doing there in the first place? What was that CIA annex doing there in the first place? And those are the type of questions that have to be answered. And really, they come back to only 2 people. That's the former Secretary of State and the President, because an ambassador is the president's direct representative in a foreign country.
But if sources with direct knowledge are telling this to Joe DeGenova, who is, by the way, representing whistleblowers, and that's why they come to him with this information, they can't come to Congress because they're being polygraphed and asked and not to give any information about all this. Tell me,
and that's another thing we should look at. Why do we have these non-disclosure agreements? What happened to the Benghazi survivors that were rescued out of that consulate? I believe it's between 30 to 35. We need to hear from them. We need to hear from the CIA, operatives that were there in Libya as well. So, this is not a phony scandal. This is something very bad. I think that this is something that, makes Iran-Contra look very small.
Colonel West, you were elected in 2010 to the House of Representatives. A lot of your colleagues are still there. And as you know, when you were running, you heard a lot from the people in your district about Obamacare. Get up there and fix this thing and throw it out. Yeah. Now Congress is in recess. They're back in their home districts, and they're having town halls. I think they're hearing the same thing, and this is sort of the last stand. It seems like the political equation in the Beltway here is, do you defund Obamacare and risk a government shutdown and Republicans being blamed for that? If you were still a congressman, what would you advocate?
Well, I would advocate separating the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, out of the funding of the government because it is, as Max Baucus, one of the authors, said, it's a train wreck. And you look at the fact that you have the exemption that was carved out for members of Congress. You look at what it's doing for small businesses. The insurance premiums are going up, pushing more people on to part-time. You've got the National Taxpayer Employees Union that's against it. You've got the Teamsters. James Hoffa Jr. sent a letter. He's against it. So we need to do something. And furthermore, the president cannot just arbitrarily cherry-pick, portions of a law that he wants to, delay or enforce, and that's what we see happening. So we have all the right arguments. So the thing should be, the onus is on the president. Are you, such of a large ego that you want to see something that will wreck and ruin the economy of the United States of America furthermore when we have a very tenuous recovery? Or do you want to do the right thing by the American people? We want to fund the government. We want the government to continue to operate. But this, your Affordable Care Act, is not ready for prime time.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to have you here on Marty's on the Mall.
Thanks,